As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
Taking them so long.
Hey, these guys are professionals. They're the best.
Totally. I hate a guy with a car and no sense of humor.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Oh, yeah, the Great Bambino. Of course. I thought you said the Great Bambi.
It's the Al Travis Show. Our next guest, you've probably seen him on TV and news across the country. He is Pete Sepp. He's the president of the NTU, National Taxpayers Union, nonpartisan national taxpayer union's government affairs, public relations, development activities, that sort of thing. He oversees strategic planning for them. He's been on things like CNN, CNBC, Fox Business, and many others. Too long to list. His name is Pete Sepp. Sir, thank you very much for coming on the program. We're going to talk the big, beautiful bill, is what I understand today.
Yes, indeed. And there is a lot to unpack there, and a very important piece of legislation for taxpayers. We would have faced a multi-trillion-dollar tax increase because so many of the provisions of the 2017 tax relief law were due to expire at the end of this year. Congress and the president prevented that, and they added additional provisions of tax relief that small business owners and families are really going to appreciate.
All right. But I've heard this. You're smoothing around the edges, because here's what really happened. Donald Trump gave his rich friends tax relief and screwed the little guy. I know this because I've heard it on plenty of television shows. That's how this worked. You want to polish us, and they didn't raise taxes, which of course means on his good buddies. Right?
Here are some problems with that argument.
That's what I heard. No kidding. I had a senator on this show saying straight up it was only went to cuts to his rich people. And I asked this young lady, said,
yeah,
if they're the ones paying taxes and their taxes don't go up, how does that hurt the little guy? Little guy's still there, not paying no taxes, and they have no answer for it. They're just, Trump's a mean man.
Well, the other thing is, of course, the 2017 tax relief law actually made our system more progressive. The wealthier paid a greater share of federal income taxes, not just in dollar terms, but relative to their own incomes. They paid a higher effective tax rate after passage of that law. They will do so after passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The bottom half of Americans will pay less as a percent of their income as a result of this bill, just like they did after the 2017 bill passed. And I can tell you, if I were somebody out working for tips, for example, I'd be elated with the provisions in this bill. If I put in overtime and qualified for it, I put in a lot of overtime, but I don't qualify for the pay.
See, let's go through some of this. You're absolutely correct, but this is how Donald, he's a close friend of mine, Donald sells us this thing like a carnival barker and gives you everything you want, and then the devil's in the details, or the other side rip him a new one. If we're going to just be fair, you and I, Mr. Sepp, what happened with the big, beautiful bill was the tax cuts given out in 2017, which were the sunset, right? So your tax would go back before they were. All we did was keep everything the same. This is your taxes same in 2024 now as you were, or 25 as you were in 2017, but they made it permanent, right? The other side will have to raise your taxes now if they want to.
Yes, they made those permanent, but there are other tax relief provisions that are new in this bill that will deliver extra relief.
But I want to bounce down that a little bit because I was just literally doing some of this Social Security example, not going to pay federal tax on your Social Security. Whoa, that's wonderful. Old people love this. I'm an old person. Look at my tax. This would be great. Wait a minute. It all has, if you don't make more than this money, if you don't give this back. I don't know how many people got relief from the taxes they're paying on Social Security, but it wasn't Social Security's federally not taxed, right? I mean, there is...
Yes, correct. There's a new deduction for seniors of $6,000 on top of any other deductions they had been able to claim before One Big Beautiful Bill. So that's going to take the edge off some of the taxes that they pay on Social Security benefits, but it won't go to zero.
See, but that again, I'm not asking you to stand up for the president and how he sells this. We're going to get rid of taxes, federal tax and Social Security. That didn't happen. It's better, I mean, if you're there, but that's exactly where then the left can come out and say, he said no more taxes. There's still taxes. Don't you know there's taxes? You bring up working for tips. No tax on tips. I mean, that was the slogan. That was the bumper sticker. But that's not entirely true either, correct? I'm just trying to be fair with the listeners.
Right.
There is a progression to that as well. Go ahead. Can you tell us that? Are you
That's
that
right.
deep? Yeah.
The law was written to say that customarily tipped professions and the workers in those professions can deduct a certain amount of tips, up to $25,000 per filer, if their income is below a certain level. That's $150,000 for a single person, $300,000 in a married filing jointly household. So, I mean, practically, there aren't a whole lot of households where you have a couple making $300,000
Working
and
on
they're getting
tips.
tips. So it's a pretty broad deduction. But again, it has to be in customarily tipped professions. The IRS hasn't written all of the detailed rules to implement it yet, but they did put some guardrails on it, and it's not going to be zero tax on tips.
See, and so again, I'm just trying to be fair to those who are listening. I know most of them are like, yeah, you believe everything Donald says. He moved that ball in the right direction. Also, overtime pay.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be taxed on overtime. Well,
Correct.
we work differently, but everybody who gets overtime pay is like, hello, here we go. But that also came with but.
Yeah.
So
it's overtime under the Fair Labor Standards Act, and it's above 40 hours, and it's time and a half. The rules have not been quite written yet, just like for the tax on tips, for the IRS to actually implement this thing. And so many of us out here, including myself, including you, Al, work overtime, but you do not qualify for overtime pay under the federal law. So that's a key difference. And it's, again, not zero tax on overtime, but there is tax relief for people who qualify under federal law for overtime pay.
But you see my argument that he says these things, and we all want the big, beautiful bill. We want America to do great. So if you think this is it, we want what he says, but there's always a yeah, but. And at the yeah, but the other side gets the chance to beat him with the wet noodle, saying, you're going to tell me there's no tax on tips? Yeah, there are. You promised. So maybe give me this going into the break. You're out there, you're talking to folks. How do most people you talk to perceive the big, beautiful bill?
Well, people perceive anything coming from Washington with a little skepticism, but I think they're beginning to understand. The more they hear about it, the more they read the basic provisions of it, the more they talk to their tax preparers. They understand, hey, I really dodged a big financial bullet by making sure that current tax law is in place and my taxes aren't going to go up. And if I'm a small business owner, somebody who gets tips, somebody who gets overtime under certain conditions, if I have qualifying kids who are currently under the child tax credit, there are new provisions that are going to save me a whole lot of money. So those are important things. But again, this is going to take time to explain. Who in the world really understands taxes? Not even the accounting profession. And we've just made some big changes here.
I would love to get your thoughts on the other side, because the other thing that the left will say then, it was a massive tax deficit increase, that our debt is now going to go up by $3 trillion. What I presume they mean, and I'll get it to you on the other side, is that by not raising everyone's taxes, that money is not coming into the Treasury, so that's going to mean our debt has to go up. We'll talk about that on the other side with Pete Sepp. He is with the National Taxpayers Union. He's the president. He's the big honcho, and we've got him here on the Al Travis Show. More right after this.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
It's nice to know a guy that knows a guy. Al Travis.
We're excited to put on the list of guests for this program. He's Pete Sepp, president of National Taxpayers Union. You've seen him on Fox Business. You've seen him on CNN, CNBC, and just a million radio stations across the country. He knows his stuff, and I appreciate you being here. Sir, I left you with the other side. The left says that this is going to cause a huge problem with our deficit, our debt. I believe Trump is saying, well, wait a minute. When we see the growth in the economy, that'll bring a lot of that back. When you look at tariff money coming in, you study this stuff. How bad is this going to be for our deficit, our debt? You're muted, sir. We get a break. We do that. Sometimes we forget to bring her back.
Here we are. Yes, ideally, we would have a 0 for 0 plan. In other words, we would have offset every potential revenue impact with spending reduction. We don't have that in the one big beautiful bill. Have to be honest and upfront about that. We're looking at a projected deficit impact from the Congressional Budget Office of $2.4 trillion or so over 10 years. Now, you have to put that in perspective, considering that the federal government is running deficits of $2 trillion annually right now. Yeah. So you're looking at overspending problems that are contributing hugely to deficits already. But setting that aside, we could have done better with spending reduction in this bill. But then Democratic opponents of tax relief or even extending current tax policies say, well, you can't cut any federal spending. I mean,
No.
they really can't have it both ways here. And when you consider that federal outlays have gone up 37% since 2019, adjusted for inflation, what
Yep.
is all of that money going toward? The pandemic is over. We have basically pulled out of Iraq, Afghanistan. What is that money being spent on? Well, a lot of it has been expansions of federal programs that are no longer justified. We absolutely must start restraining the growth in spending. That's what One Big Beautiful Bill made a down payment on with reforms to the Medicaid program. There's this thing
Oh, wait, you say reform, that's speak for you cut it. Now, as far as I can tell, we cut it from dead people. We cut it from people who could work. But did any benefits cuts, shrinking the size of benefits? I don't believe there were any. It's who could be there. You can't be here illegally and get it. We made it some rules.
That's right. And what we're also talking about here is slowing the growth of the program. Instead of growing on the federal side of Medicaid at 5% a year, it'll grow at 3.5% under One Big Beautiful Bill. That is not a real cut. And some of these reforms, we have to remember, have bipartisan support. Joe Biden called the provider tax scam years before Donald Trump even was on the game here. In the Obama administration, Joe Biden said it's unfair for states to be able to levy 3-6% tax on Medicaid providers, take that money, get federal matching funds for it, and refund part of the tax to the providers. It was a whole scam.
Yeah.
And President Trump and Congress said, we have to limit this, start dialing it back, give the states time to figure out another way to fund their programs instead of ripping off the federal government. Simple, but Democrats call this horror. It's going to throw people into the streets. Well, ask Joe Biden what he thought of it when he called it a scam.
So let me ask you this. You've been through this thing's massive. It covers everything.
Yes.
What would be the biggest sticking point that the other side is going to throw at you and say, see, this is what happens? Is it going to be that fact that inflation's going to go up, or not? What is it when you look at it, you say, this is the landmine we get? I mean, there's always something. This never, works perfectly for everybody. What's the landmine?
I think that they're going to use the fact that President Trump's campaign promises don't quite match up with the end result of the bill. They're probably going to complain that the federal deficit continues to be a problem. Well, they need to be an equal partner in finding spending restraint. They're also going to complain about the fairness of the bill, not understanding that with an extra child tax credit, with better small business provisions, with tax on tips and tax on overtime relief, all of those things are going to skew toward the middle and working class in a way that even the 2017 law didn't do. And they're going to have at least 2 years to complain about this because there won't be statistics collected from the filing seasons until roughly 2027 to show what actually happened with the income distributions among taxpayers.
Interesting. We've got to fly, sir. If somebody wanted to join your group, find, like what you're saying, want to look you up, how does someone go about finding the National Taxpayers Union?
They can visit us online at NTU, our initials for National Taxpayers Union, NTU.org.
I appreciate you taking the time, sir. I really do. To discuss all this with the guy who's read through all this, I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
All right. Pete Sepp with National Taxpayers Union on The Al Travis Show.
Tired of one-sided media and divisive noise drowning out your conservative values? Take back the conversation.